1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All lives.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We are back with our 98th episode, and we got a special one for you. As you can tell, I do not sound anything like Aaron Harris because I'm losing my voice, but I am him. I promise you I am. And joining me is the guy that will test I am who I am, the David Motters. David, brother, how's it going?
It is going. I'm ready to react, and we got to get you better, buddy. But I tell you what, I am super excited for this edition of our Star Wars Reactions, a chat with series. And we've been trying to get this person on, but her schedule and our schedules just didn't match up for a while, and we finally are making it happen. And I'm just very thankful for that.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a great chat, and I'm going to let you take the reins on that here in a moment. But before we do, I would be dismiss if we didn't at least talk a little bit of Bad Batch real quick, because we're recording this on December 7th, and what happened today? We get the season 2 poster, we get the season 2 trailer, and Jen Corbett from Lucasfilm dropped all the titles to all the episodes. So we have a full episode count of how many episodes there are going to be for this season and when they're going to be released, including a couple double episode release dates. So let's jump into it. Did you see the trailer, David?
Absolutely. Yeah. Got the alarm, the notification, from Twitter actually is where I had it. And then of course at StarWars.com, I think I texted you or whatever, and you were already all over it like white on rice. And really enjoyed it. Kind of a continuation of that beautiful water planet that they're on. And so good to see our heroes back in action.
Yes, absolutely. And to see a surprise or two through there as well. In the trailer, we got to see Commander Cody for the first time. He's in there. Yeah. And we get to see a certain Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah. Is it Gunji?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is. So this season looks like it's going to be spectacular. There are going to be a confirmed 16 episodes in this season. They start January 4th with a double release. There's 2 episodes being released there, episode 1 and episode 2. Those are Spoils of War and Ruins of War, is what those episodes are called. Then, of course, we get 1 episode a week after that, January 11th, episode 3, Solitary Clone, episode 8, or January 18th, episode 4, Faster, January 25th, episode 5, Entombed, February 1st, episode 6, which will be entitled Tribe. Then February 8th, it is double Jeopardy time because we get 2 episodes, episode 7 and episode 8, which are entitled The Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then back to 1 episode a week with February 15th, number 9, The Crossing, February 22nd, number 10, The Retrieval, March 1st, number 11, Metamorphosis, March 8th, The Outpost, March 15th, Pabu. Sounds like that old VeggieTales song, Sabu. The song is a Sabu. 20 March 22nd, the 14th episode, Tipping Point. Then March 29th, double episode finale, The Summit, and Plan 99.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to go back to Clone 90, because they're Clone Force 99.
Yeah.
And of course, you got that Defective Clone 99. So maybe it's all linked together.
Yeah. No, these I'm looking because it was so awesome, man. You sent me the tweet by Jennifer Corbett here, and I was just following along with you, all the dates and the names of the episodes, and I thought that's really cool that she sent that out, and that's really cool. January, February, March, and then wait, is it March 1st? There is overlap.
There is overlap.
Yeah, Mandalorian, season 3. So yeah, some overlap there. But wow, we're gonna get Star Wars overload, man. So is this? What do you think, Aaron? Is this the first time we're gonna have overlap of 2 Star Wars shows? I was trying to think. I think so. Is that right? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. It'll be the first overlap we've had on Disney Plus of any Star Wars show. So
yeah,
because they usually are back to back and not usually a week or two between the series. So
yeah.
But yeah, we'll have that overlap. So we'll have for a couple episodes there. We'll get release days with a Mando and a Bad Batch. Yeah. So that's what we like to call Star Wars heaven.
Yeah, that's right.
So, it was fantastic. So, you know what? So much to look forward to. I can't wait for those to come out. January 4th, right around the corner. They'll be here before you know it with new Star Wars, new animated Star Wars at that. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's not hold back. We got an excellent reactions chat, so let's get it going. Well, joining us tonight for our latest installment of our reactions chat series is a longtime friend. She is absolutely a star in the world of Star Wars. She has been a blogger. She's currently a podcaster. She's a cosplayer. You may have heard her over on our friend's show, the Podcast Stardust. And they're about to celebrate 500 episodes by the time this episode releases. But we are so honored and so excited to have with us the outstanding, the fabulous, the wonderful Jay Krebs. Jay, how are you doing?
Wow, what an introduction. Oh my goodness, I am blushing over here. David, Aaron, thank you so much for having me on. You can't even know how much I appreciate talking to you guys. And we do go way back, and it's wonderful to share the mic with you again. So thank you. I'm very grateful.
Well, we're honored to have you on with us. It is always fun to talk to you. It has been a while, and we enjoy it. So we wanted to especially get you on for one of these chat episodes because they're fun to do. We basically explore an individual's fandom, get to know them better, and just there's so many people out there. There's so many different fandoms and so many different views on fandom that it's just absolutely wonderful to get to hear and see them all. And you have a fabulous story, fabulous history, awesome cosplay, and I can't wait to hear about all of it. But as you can tell, I am rapidly losing my voice again. So I'm going to turn this over to my better half and let David take over from here.
All right, buddy. I'll jump in and help guide the ship here. So, yeah, no, just to echo what Aaron said, we've been wanting to get Jay on for quite a period of time for this a chat with session, and they're just a lot of fun to ask these questions and just to get to know more about these persons in fandom. But just like Jay said, I just a little side note before I ask the first question. When Jay said we go way back, she's not lying. I remember, I think one of the first times I ever recorded a podcast was with Aaron and with Jay way back in the day when I first started, I guess 7 years ago, 7 years ago. So yeah, that far back. So, all right, let's start the chat questions.
Awesome.
And yeah, these are a lot of fun, Jay. This first one, here it is. It asks, how and when did your fandom start?
It's been honestly, David, a part of my life since as long as I can remember. And I am an OG fan. We're kind of all of the same sort of age group for the most part. But yeah, this goes all the way back to the original 1977 release of A New Hope. And I still remember as clear as a bell, this was back when the newspapers had the old marquee ads in them, if you guys remember, where when you would look up the movies to go to the movie theater, it would have a little miniature replica of the poster for each one. Oh yeah. And my sister, who we are bookends of our family. So she's actually 18 years older than I am. So she had a daughter, my niece, who's 3 years younger than me. And so it was the summer of 1977 and we were looking through the paper and my sister said, "What do you guys want to see?" And because I'm very controlling, I looked at all the little marquee posters and I said, "That one." And it was Star Wars. And as soon as that Star Destroyer came across the screen, I was hooked, literally, hook, line, and sinker. And it has, the Star Wars train has never stopped rolling my entire life.
That is awesome. And you just really created a blast from the past for me, that nostalgia. Absolutely remember looking at the newspapers in my hometown and seeing it and what time is it playing, and oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this piggybacks off the last question, Jay. And it says, what was it about Star Wars that appealed to you as a fan?
Well, I think originally it was the idea of this adventure. And quite honestly, it was Princess Leia. She was the one that I was completely enamored with because here was this beautiful, strong princess who was not taking anything from anybody. And she was basically the one that was kind of, running the show at one point, into the garbage chute, fly boy. And, so I can remember going home and pretending to be Leia in everything that I did. And, I was one of those kind of girls. I was a tomboy and I love to get dirty. I love to climb trees. I love to, I had my mom, I feel like she needed to buy stock in the Band-Aid company because I was constantly skinning my knees and, and whatnot. So, but, I wasn't super duper confident all the time. And I can just remember climbing trees and looking at the next branch, being so afraid to try to climb up to it and just literally thinking to myself, well, what would Leia do? And so for me, that was a big part of it, is that I had this role model that I could look up to and that I could really embody those same types of characteristics. And of course, it was also just the idea of the adventure and the action, because I was a big, huge Flash Gordon fan. Star Trek was, I always say Star Trek was kind of my gateway into Star Wars because we used to watch it every Sunday night. That was just kind of the thing for the family. And I remember after Sunday football was over, my dad would have the remote control, AKA me, go over and physically change the station and go over and we would watch Star Trek. So I was always a sci-fi kid. And so Star Wars was just next level. And like I said, I was just completely hooked and I couldn't get enough. I would go to flea markets and save up my allowance and buy trading cards. And I saved away to get my first Fantha track. Well, it was Bantha tracks at the time, not Fantha tracks. See, I'm thinking of the Fantha tracks that exists now, but Bantha tracks was the original Star Wars fan club. And I still have all of that memorabilia. I even sat one summer and literally typed out the entire script to Star Wars: A New Hope. I had it on audio cassette once it came out on HBO. And I would sit there and I still have that script to this day. So it's just something about it has completely captured every facet of my imagination.
Oh my gosh, that's
amazing.
That's incredible. Wow.
Some people would call that strange, but I know I'm in good company here, so it's all good.
Oh, you were in the best company for this. That is so awesome. And
that is. I want to jump in real quick with what little voice I have, because I did something very similar to that, Jay. Except for I didn't write the script. I drew my own little comic book.
Nice.
Just took a bunch of notebook paper, folded it in half, drew pictures, wrote the story in there, and just made my own little Star Wars comic book growing up. It's crazy.
That is awesome. Well, another thing too was my little local library. The whole reason that I got a library card was because I wanted to check out the book, Star Wars, because I wanted to read it. Because after I saw the movie umpteen million times, I think I was probably 10 by this time, and I found out there was actually a book. And so I wanted a library card so I could take out the book. And I renewed that book every single time that I possibly could, until it got to the point where it was so worn that my parents finally asked the library if I could just buy the book, and they sold me the book. And I still have that book.
Nice.
My gosh. Nice. Jay, this awesome. Unreal. And awesome. Yeah. Hey, I had to say something. I know Aaron jumped in there. You got me thinking again, because of the similar ages and seeing it in the summer of '77. And I think I had the very similar experience to you, Jay. Of my dad was a big science fiction fan, and he called it science affliction. Yeah. So I started on Star Trek, and was just watching those episodes. And I do think, Jay, it was very much a gateway once Star Wars hit, and I just went full bore into Star Wars. Still enjoy Star Trek, but absolutely kind of went that same route that you did. So That's awesome to hear that history of yours. That is cool. Well, gosh, again, I think the way Aaron wrote these questions, they really do build. So this one's, I can kind of think of maybe some of the things you might say, but this next question asks, what has been fandom's biggest impact on you?
The people, honestly, because there was, of course, yeah, as I just said, I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life, but it wasn't truly until I got into the hyperspace blogs back on the old Star Wars website. And just a real quick aside, one of the big reasons that I got really back into fandom at that point, it was around 2006, towards the end of 2006. And I had the kids, and I'd shared a lot of different kinds of experiences with my nieces, and like the Phantom Menace premiere, and everything like that. But you guys know how it is when you've got little ones, infants and toddlers, your attention is drawn elsewhere. So as much as I loved Star Wars, I didn't really have a lot of time for it. And so in 2006, when I started into the hyperspace blogs, I found my people. And so that's where I met people like Becca Benjamin and, some of you guys, and Dan Zier. And, I could go on and on and on. And then I attended my first celebration in 2007 in Los Angeles. And so this was when the internet was just kind of, I don't want to say it was in its infancy, but, meeting people online and then meeting them in real life was, I think, a lot more taboo even than it is now. So it was kind of like, oh, you're going to meet these people that you met online? Really? I mean, they could be serial killers. Like, what are you doing? And so I literally met up with a few of these women that I met, flew to California together with them, and then built upon that community. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And so I have been so incredibly blessed with the people like you guys, for example. And everyone else that I've met through blogging and podcasting and cosplaying, that just builds this immense network of love for this crazy saga in space. But it's home. So for me, that's the number one, is the people, honestly.
Wow, well said, well said. Yeah, and I know I feel similar. That podcasting's really brought that about. I would have never met you, but Star Wars podcasting has allowed that and developed those friendships, and meeting Aaron, and oh my gosh, I've loved that. I've loved the friendships, and it's so good to hear you say that. And in your personality, so outgoing and so friendly, that's perfect fit.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So this next one, we're going to keep rolling through them. It's so fun to hear your answers to these. So this one, Jay, says, do you have a favorite Star Wars moment or experience?
Oh my goodness. Like I said, there's so many. One of my favorites has got to be, though, in Chicago at Celebration, because my son, who is now 21, going to be 21 this month, he was a junior in high school at the time. And so it's one of those things that both my boys were brought up on Star Wars. I mean, they kind of didn't have a choice, It was part of their life growing up as well. But it was always something that we could share no matter what. And so getting to experience that with him at Celebration I treasure that probably above and beyond anything, because kind of going back to my experience in 2007, when we were going through the convention center, there was this little boy, and you know how they have those tapestry kind of things, like the backdrops where you can get pictures taken that have the landscapes or the different scenes from the different Star Wars, areas or landscapes or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, we've seen
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there was one of Tatooine, and there was this little boy, and he was probably about 7 years old at the time. So that's about how old my boys were. This was the first time in 2007 that I had been truly away from them for any length of time. And so I saw this little boy standing in front of this little backdrop, and his dad was taking his picture. And I asked the dad, I said, do you mind if I take a picture of your little boy? I have two sons the same age. And for whatever reason, that particular moment stuck with me. And I thought, Star Wars is forever. This dad is handing the baton to his boy, and I'll be darned if I'm not going to do the same thing with mine. And so getting to celebrate with my son at Celebration, I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it.
Yes.
When we experienced the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker together was incredible. I mean, the entire weekend was incredible, but I mean, that's something that I will treasure forever.
Oh my God. You're going to get me crying, Jay. Oh my goodness. I love that. I'm just, oh my gosh. See, Aaron, this is, we're not dumb, right? But this is why we have you on, Jay. We get the best people on here, and that's why we do it. No, that's awesome. And so, well, I mean, this is, you've got this perspective, being an OG. This question, Jay, asks, how have you seen fandom change through the years?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I know when I was younger, I didn't really think about the fact that I was a quote unquote geek. It was just I liked what I liked. And, I collected what I loved, and it wasn't really anything that I was I hate to say that I was like outwardly proud of necessarily. It was just who I was, and there wasn't at the time, we're talking like early 1980s to mid 1980s. There wasn't really the merch that there is now. And so, and of course I was a teenager in the 1980s. So I kind of got out of, I wouldn't say out of Star Wars fandom, but kind of detoured into things like, my favorite movie in the 80s, for example, besides Star Wars, of course, was Pretty in Pink. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was that kind of kid, Molly Ringwald's character. And so, but then once I finally got kind of back into it again, it was kind of a niche thing. And for a very long time, even after The Phantom Menace came out, I feel like there was there was nothing out there. You know, like it was going to these places. Like there was this place up in Cleveland where I'm near, and it was like treasure hunting. If you found something Star Wars, it was like, oh my gosh, there's Star Wars. I have to buy this. This is Star Wars merch. And now I feel like it's everywhere, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, because it's almost too much because it tempts my pocketbook, as Dex would say, you know, all the time. But it's also a good problem to have. And it's also, I think, a lot more, I don't want to say accepted than it used to be, but it's definitely a lot more mainstream than it used to be, even though it still surprises me that I run across people every day that say, I've never seen Star Wars. And I was like, what? But it's like, how? This has been part of our American heritage since 1977. Like, how have you not seen this? So I think it's kind of gone in waves. And, you know, the pendulum swings, and it's definitely swinging towards that mainstream. And I think that series like, especially like Andor, the Book of Boba Fett, you know, are bringing a lot more of the mainstream media, if you will, into Star Wars, which is, I mean, hey, I'll move over and make room. You know, there's room for everybody.
No, well said. No, I agree with you. Yeah, some of these shows really are bringing in more and more fans. I mean, you can see it at the conventions. I mean, it's wall to wall people. You can hardly move. There's so many. And by the way, I'm really jealous that you were there at that 2007 convention. That one was kind of, isn't that considered? What number is that considered?
That was 4.
That was 4. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's do this. Let's ask you this one. The Star Wars saga has themes that run through stories. Themes like redemption, hope, etc. But what theme from the saga has made the biggest impact for you?
Family, for sure. And Carrie Fisher said it best, and she embodied that when she said it's all about family. And it's true, because you could look at it from the very strict linear idea of the Skywalker line or the Skywalker saga, but there are families intertwined in everything. I mean, you look at the Ghost Crew from Rebels, that's a family. And I know I've got Aaron's attention when I said that. But you look
you did.
You look at the Mandalorians, and even though there's different sects of the Mandalorians, they're still a family. The Wookiees, the civilization itself is a family. The Jedi technically are a family. The Sith, they might be a little dysfunctional, but they're a family. You know, so I think that there's that runs through the entire thing, and the connections, and that's probably no surprise, because as I'm talking, you're sensing that common theme, I'm sure, of the connections between people. And as much as I love the action, as much as I love the Jedi versus Sith, the lightsabers, the blasters, the ships, you know, everything, the characters, family, I think is the core for me.
Gosh, well said. Well said. Gosh, all right. Well, let's do this. I love this question. I'm so excited to talk about this with you, because you're like the best of the best at this. So let's talk about your cosplay. You have several characters you dress up as, and kind of what started you down that path of cosplay?
Well, first of all, best of the best is very, very high praise. Thank you. I do appreciate that. But I'll tell you what, there are so many that I look up to in the cosplay world that I've learned so much from, and I'm still learning so much from, that I consider to be way higher than me. Just a quick aside, I got to meet a few of my cosplay inspirations just this last weekend at GalaxyCon Columbus. Jedi Manda is one of those. She literally wrote the book on cosplay, several of them, as a matter of fact. So how I got into it was back as long as I could remember. My mom was a seamstress, so she sewed. And so I would design a lot of different costumes, and I would design my own clothing. I mentioned the whole Pretty in Pink thing. If you've watched the movie, she sewed her own clothing. So I've been sewing since I was like 8 years old. And it's always been an amazing feeling for me to get into a costume. I don't care if it's Star Wars or not, because I've done things like Effie Trinket. I've done things from the Twilight Saga. I've done, gosh, I even did Boy George back in the day. I did Madonna for a car show and did a lip sync performance. So, I mean, it's...
Wow.
Yeah, the cosplay train just keeps rolling. So as far as Star Wars goes, my first true build was back in, gosh, I think it was maybe 2008. And I did the red invasion gown from the Phantom Menace. So it would be Padme's red gown that she wears with the huge headdress and the gold Naboo symbols down the front, and then the light up globes around the skirt.
Yes.
And so, and at the time I was just like, I love doing this. I love the whole idea of the makeup, becoming someone else. And so I said, gosh, how do I share this with other people? Like, I want to get out there, and there's got to be other places besides Halloween that I could do this. So I just randomly started calling up libraries in the area and saying, hey, do you guys ever do a Star Wars day? I would love to volunteer for you. And so that's how I got started. And then it kind of expanded from there. So my second big build was my Ahsoka build that I started back in 2015. And so this is Ahsoka seasons 3 through 5. And my first build was very, very basic. But again, my first event was a Star Wars Reads Day that I actually did with my my high school students. And so I was the Ahsoka for that. And I've actually been building on that particular cosplay ever since, and improving it and learning and so forth. And then, of course, I have Hera, which I finished last April, and super proud of that one. I do commission some of the pieces. So I have a gal, her name is Twi'lek Pam. And so she actually makes the Leku. And my new Ahsoka, I say new, but it's like almost 3 years old now, I think. I commissioned that headpiece from a cosplayer named Ahsoka 94. And I've also built since then the Fourth Sister Inquisitor, which I just finished in October. And that one I built literally from the ground up. Every stitch, every piece, except for things like the boots, the gloves, that type of thing. But I built everything else out of EVA foam, fabric, latex, and I honestly could not have done it without the help of fellow cosplayers that I met through Instagram, believe it or not. I was fortunate enough to befriend 2 siblings from Michigan who we just kind of connected, and we had 3 different armor parties, 2 at my house and 1 at their house. And I learned different techniques from them and vice versa. And it's been quite a ride. So I haven't competed in any cosplay events yet. I almost did this weekend in Columbus, but I figured I'm gonna hold off on that one. But I've appeared several times in my hometown for different events. I've done some volunteering at different places, and it's just been, it's been a ton of fun. I cannot get enough of it. So I've got in 2023 plans to possibly do an original concept Mandalorian, and perhaps an ISB agent that you might be familiar with. And my son also cosplays Darth Nihilus, so I might be taking on Darth Kreia.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it here right now, Jay Snip's cosplay, and I would encourage people to, I just wanted to flip over to it real quick, to do that. I all the things you've talked about, I've tracked with, because when you talk about the different characters you do, I've seen you post pictures about the sewing and the creation and the foam work that you've done, the appearances you've made. I've seen those, and then like you said, most recently, I was looking at the Instagram and just seeing your, all the pictures there at that Comic-Con in Columbus, and part of what I wanted to say was when I say you're the best of the best, when I tell you that most recent build, that fourth sister, there's a reason why I say it, because not only seeing like the costumes that you're in, the Ahsoka and Hera, but I'll tell you the makeup, to see how you put that and integrate that, and how much, like, and of course I just remember watching the Obi-Wan series where that character is from. It's incredible. And then even like where, like I you've done pictures in the Ahsoka cosplay. It seems like out in like kind of like nature and stuff like that. It's incredible. And then and the other thing too, the collaboration that you talk about, and that's another thing I've noticed. You'll post a lot of these other cosplayers and really promote them, and it's just so cool to see. I think about that creativity, and it's just incredible. But I think about you being so good at this, like I said, not just because of how you create the outfits, but the makeup as well. It's just, oh my goodness. It's a lot. It's a lot, like you said, and you got to learn so much. But let me ask you this kind of, you'd mentioned some of them, but this is kind of two sub questions that Aaron and I have. One is, how many different characters do you dress up as now? Do you have like maybe those? I know several that you mentioned, but do you kind of have a stalwart 3 or 4 of them, or more than that? What would you say?
Oh yeah, and thank you so much for the kind words, because that truly does mean a lot to me, because I do have a passion for this, obviously. And I want to put myself out there in the best way that I possibly can, but I also love to lift others up as well. So as you said, when I'm posting things for other cosplayers, it's because it's a tremendous community, and we're all in this together, and I want to lift others up to show others how much work everyone is doing, because it truly is a labor of love. So thank you so much for that. So so there's so many different characters that I do. My top 3 right now are definitely Ahsoka, Hera, and Fourth Sister. And so depending upon where I'm going and what I'm doing, I choose to do different things. Ahsoka is definitely much more of a time commitment. It takes on average 4 hours from start to finish to get into the makeup. The makeup itself, just my face, takes me about 2.5 hours, because everything is hand drawn, hand brushed, all by myself. Some of the body painting my husband has to help me with, because there's just some places you just can't reach. So so he does that for me. And Hera is actually really easy to get into. The Leku are just super, it's almost like putting my head into it and then flipping my head back, which is great. Whereas Ahsoka, I have to commit to the glue, it's called spirit gum. And it takes forever to get off of my head afterwards. And it takes off all my little baby hairs like around my face. But you know what? It's all part of cosplay. That's part of the game. And then for Fourth Sister is also really easy to get in and out of as well. But Fourth Sister has so many different little greebly parts that go along with it. And just a really, really quick aside, the whole reason that I did Fourth Sister was because when, once again, my younger son and I, we were at Celebration in Anaheim just this last May. And of course, the Kenobi series had just premiered, and they had all of the costumes there that you could see. And my son was like, "Mom, I want to do Fifth Brother. I think you should do Fourth Sister with me." So when your 19/20-year-old at the time son says, "Mom, I want to cosplay with you," you make the world turn on its axis in order to do that. So honestly, I wasn't like super invested in the character at first until he said that. And then I actually had a couple people that said, "Jay, you actually look like her. Like, I had one of my friends text me and say, I honestly thought that was you on screen. And I'm like, oh, stop. No, 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 really. And so I said, all right, well, I'm going to capitalize on this. So then I got into it and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? So my Ahsoka build, like I said, I started in 2015 and I'm still tweaking it and still kind of, improving it. Hera took me about 5 months to build. And we're talking like probably around 120 hours. And Fourth Sister took me 4 months, but more hours because I devoted almost every single weekend in September and the first part of October, like morning till night, Saturday and Sunday, just working on it in my garage. And my husband I have to give him kudos because he has been incredibly supportive and literally moving tables, lifting things, letting me like go out to his shop. I'm like, do you have this? Do you have that? Can I borrow that? And he's like, yeah, sure. Here's this, here's that. But yeah, I mean, just I ended up buying my own Dremel and like doing all of these different things just so that I could learn. And I've learned so much. But yeah, those three are definitely my three main. And then you've probably seen my Tahiri Vela, which a lot of people don't know Tahiri if they aren't into the expanded universe. So yeah, well, Legends now. But she's always been my favorite character other than Leia in all of Star Wars. And so I have her and an X-Wing pilot and a few other ones. I have a Princess Ballerina, Leia. And yeah, so it's like a mashup. And then my other one that I did like a mashup concept of was for Celebration 2015. And I need to wear this one again, but it was a steampunk female C-3PO.
Oh, wow.
Gold from head to toe. I'll have to bring that one out of the archive sometime.
Oh my gosh. A couple things. When you talked about the amount of time, 2.5 hours, maybe 2.5, no, I shouldn't say 2.5 hours to get the makeup on your face for Ahsoka, but that 4 hours total, I had no idea, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And for you to say, and then to take the Leiku off, I guess, do we call it Leiku for Ahsoka as well as for like Hera? I guess, what is Ahsoka's? Yeah, head.
Yeah, the tails are the Leiku and then the Montrals would be the top.
Okay, the Montrals.
Yep.
But that's a lot. Now, I will say this. I want to comment on this. It's funny. When I saw you as Fourth Sister, you do look like her, by the way. In that makeup, that yellow, that makeup you put on, I'm telling you, anybody right now, go check out Jay's pictures and look at the actress in the show and check out Jay. Put those pictures and you'll see why Jay's friend said that to her. No question about that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you do, honest to God. And so, because again, I've been looking at all these and it's just so cool how you make all these. Now, I don't know if you kind of maybe answered a little bit. Do you have a favorite then? Is it out of the main three? I know you mentioned Tahiri, right? And that makeup's incredible too, how you do that. I don't know how you do that on your forehead. I think I'm getting it correct. The red lightsaber, just so cool. But I don't know. I didn't know if she's your favorite. Is it Hera, Ahsoka, Fourth Sister? Do you have a favorite or not necessarily?
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret with Tahiri. Those scars on the forehead is just pieces of glue that I just glue to my head with spirit gum.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing what you can do with a glue gun. It really is. So there's a little cheap trick from Jay Snips. But but it's funny that you asked this because there was someone had put a template on Instagram recently, and it was what is your most comfortable cosplay? What is your favorite cosplay? What is I can't remember what the other question was, but honestly, all of them that I do, I have different feels for each one. So it's and some of it does come down to what type of commitment is involved. So for example, this last weekend with Ahsoka, I chose not to do Ahsoka at all. Like Ahsoka wasn't even on the table for this weekend because I didn't want to take 4 hours before the con started that morning to get into costume. So it was just, I wanted something that was comfortable. So it was either going to be between Fourth Sister or Hera, and I actually put it to Instagram and let people vote. And so it just so happened that Hera got the nod. But it's fun because with Fourth Sister, it's really fun being bad. Like
That's cool.
Oh my gosh, like I just went to an event a couple months in October when that was my deadline for getting Fourth Sister done. Was I was appearing at this event called Art in the Alley to help raise money for a local arts partnership. And so I was Fourth Sister there, and I was walking down the different alleyways where they would have the vendors and the booths and things set up. And I would just walk up to little kids and like ones that I thought could handle it, like 10, 12-year-olds. And I would just turn on my lightsaber and I would say, stop. Do you favor the Jedi or the Empire? Choose wisely.
Oh my!
And they would look at me with those eyes, because I had the Sith contacts in and the red lightsaber, and some of them would be like, Empire, or I would stop them and say, "Have you seen any Jedi? I'm looking for Kenobi," and they didn't know what to do. And oh my gosh, was that fun! Like
that is awesome.
So much fun. But then again, it's fun to be Hera because, who doesn't love Hera? Who doesn't love Space Mom? I have found that people respond to Hera and Ahsoka very well in terms of just joy, just the joy that they bring to their lives. And so, it's fun in different ways to do different things. And so it's really hard for me to pick a favorite character. So I'm really, really excited to do something where it's not a face character, because I've always done face characters where you can see my face. And so if I end up doing the Mando, you're not going to see my face. So it'll be interesting to have a little anonymity at that point and see how that's going to change the feeling of the cosplay.
You really got me thinking. As you were describing how much time it takes to do some of this makeup, I thought about the men and women in the 501st, and when they have, their helmets, the buckets on, and so for them, there's not a makeup component, but there's other challenges. And then I think about your stuff, and you have different challenges, but the makeup being a big one, that's a lot, like you said. And I saw those pictures of you as Hera at the Comic-Con this past weekend, and saw, like you said, that Hera won out, and you have a lot of cool pictures posted there of that con. And side note, I was looking at the picture. I think you posted it, but I think it's with James Arnold Taylor, Ashley Eckstein, and Matt Lanner, and they got everyone behind them at that panel. And then I was looking around trying to find you. Were you there at their panel, the three of them?
Yes. As a matter of fact, my son and I were about maybe 3 rows back in that picture. And fun fact, so Ashley has these extensions that her hairdresser made for her stylist. Yes. And essentially they have the blue stripes in them to mimic Ahsoka's head tails. And Ashley wears these at her cons. And so I actually had my hairstylist make me some extensions exactly like it to go to Celebration in May. And that's what I got my photo op done with Ashley when I was wearing those. And so I also wore them to this panel as well. And Ashley was wearing hers. So we were kind of twinning in that way. So yeah.
Wait, so because maybe that's why I couldn't see you. I'm looking around. I'm like, I was looking for you, and I thought you'd be in the Hera. So maybe you didn't have that on then, maybe.
Yeah, that was Friday night.
Okay, so okay, that's why I'm looking around. I'm like, and of course, there's a ton of people in there, but okay, so I know where to look now. So that's cool that you were there with the trio, the Clone Wars trio.
That was incredible, I have to say. That was such a great panel.
That's so cool. All right. Okay, final question before the speed round. All right. So again, because, like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, kind of being an OG fan, this question asks, how do you feel about the current direction of the saga?
In terms of the movies or just the overall storytelling?
I think Aaron and I have generally said overall storytelling. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah, the overall story, the overall direction of the Star Wars saga and how it's moving, because we've seen it through the years morph into the movies and books, and then we got the TV, the animated shows, and now we're getting a whole slew of live action shows. Just how do you feel overall about the direction the saga is going?
I love it. I mean, for me, the more Star Wars, the better. You know, it's always a good problem to have way too much Star Wars. And it's really been this amazing Doppler effect. You know, here was George Lucas back in 1977. He threw this stone into the pond, and the ripples are still going and going and going. And like you mentioned, we have the live action, we have the animation. I mean, Bad Batch is less than a month away now, and I'm so excited about that. And then we've got all the books. We've got the High Republic. We've got the comics. There's anime. There's Visions. There's the Acolyte that's coming out. The video games. I mean, oh my gosh, Jedi Fallen Order. And then now the new sequel that's coming out. You know, that's another one. Like the Night Sisters, Marin is another one of my dream cosplays. So, I mean, there's something out there for everyone with Star Wars, and you know, it's one of those kind of things that you don't have to like it all. There's something out there for everybody. So if you're not into the comics, guess what? That's okay. If you don't like the anime, that's all right. I mean, some people didn't like the little Studio Ghibli thing that we just got with Grogu, Zen, and the Dust Bunnies. That's okay. You don't have to like it. Some people won't like the Acolyte. Some people will love it all. And so I just think that that's something that's so incredibly unique about Star Wars, and that the storytelling is taking on really kind of not just a life of its own, but it's also paying a great homage back to the original story as well. And the tapestry that has been woven throughout all of the different media that's out there is just so impressive. I am so grateful that we have so much to choose from. And, you know, with Andor and going into that, and then going forward into the next season and building on that and seeing what happens into Rogue One. I mean, there's just, oh my gosh, I could just go on and on and on, because there's just so much. And I'm so glad that Star Wars is being handed over to people who are fans as well. You know, like Dave Filoni, for example. I mean, he is, talk about passing the baton. That's the kind of people that need to be at the helm of Star Wars, and it will be safe in their hands.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, no, I love it, Jay. Like you said, I mean, people can like what they like. If they don't like something, they don't have to watch it. And so, yeah, there's something for everybody. There truly is. And so, let's do this. Let's do the speed round, and we'll just, you know, these are fun too. There's nothing, you know, no wrong answers, because they're all, you know, Star Wars answers. So,
yay.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Speed round. Question 1. Favorite movie?
Oh, Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. All right. Favorite character?
Leia.
Yeah.
It was between Leia and Ahsoka, but I had to go with Leia. My dog's name's Leia.
All right. Good deal. Next one. Empire or Rebellion?
Rebellion.
Okay. Favorite moment from the movies or a show?
Oh gosh. I know I'm not supposed to be thinking, but I have to say when the first Death Star blows up, because that's just such a good feel-good moment.
Oh, so cool. And favorite soundtrack or song?
Favorite song is Leia's theme, big surprise. But I'd say the soundtrack overall is Attack of the Clones.
Nice. Something that you and Dennis covered for Podcast Stardust, and we're so kind to have Aaron and I on for a part of that coverage.
That was a ton of fun.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's the speed round. And so, you know, just kind of to close up, Aaron and I were just, you know, just wanting you to tell us, you know, about Podcast Stardust, and, you know, obviously maybe a little bit more about the big episode coming up, and just kind of, you know, tell our listeners, you know, more about that wonderful podcast you guys do.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been absolutely fantastic. And you both have been such gracious hosts in letting me just ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble. So So I'm so grateful for that. So yes, you can find Podcast Stardust on basically every podcatcher, and no matter where you look, we're there. So we're on all your favorite podcatchers, such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Lisbon, everywhere. And yes, we do have our 500th episode coming up. So my friend Dennis Keithley and I, we've been at this now for 3 years straight. And we have 3 episodes a week that come out, and we do news, reviews, and discussion. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we've got a new episode coming out. We also do a once a month wrap up of fashion and lifestyle products in the Star Wars galaxy called World Between Worlds, which is kind of my little baby. And yes, we do have our 500th episode here debuting on Friday. And so we are just so grateful for all of our listeners and for everyone that we've been able to meet and have on the show, like you two incredible gentlemen. And we definitely consider you to be wonderful friends. And we're just so blessed to be able to have so many people contribute to our fun over there on Podcast Stardust. So Dennis and I call it our appointment Star Wars every week, that we just get to get together and just talk Star Wars and geek out, and hopefully other people enjoy the fun as well.
Nice. Now, do you want to, put yourself through the Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week? I mean, these are groaners, Jay.
Oh, I love dad jokes. Are you kidding?
Okay. I wanted to save you if you wanted to, but we figured you want to stick around just to the bitter end for this one. So our listeners, I think this is a tradition now for Aaron to end it. So even though he doesn't have a good voice, he still wanted to do the Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. So Aaron, take it away.
The force will be with you, Aaron. Here you go.
Always. So yes, definitely. I did not want to miss this part of the show. I had to do it. But before I do, I wanted to say thank you, Jay, for jumping on with us. I'm sorry I haven't been here I've been here listening the whole time, but haven't been interacting much, but we appreciate you coming on. And before I close out with the dad joke, did you want to tell our listeners where they could find you online or your cosplay, and so they can look you up and give you a follow as well?
Oh, sure. I really appreciate that. Yes. On Podcast Stardust, we are at Podcast Stardust on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then you can catch my cosplay over on Instagram at j.snipscosplay.
Excellent. And David, if anybody wants to talk Star Wars with you, how will they do that?
Absolutely. Twitter, it's at David_Modders, Modders. And then I'm over at Instagram. I am nowhere near as prolific as Jay. Oh my goodness.
That's my only platform though. So
I got to catch up. But if you just put my name in, you'll go there and see some of the photos I have there. It's just a little bit of fun. So those are the 2 spots.
Excellent. And of course, if you want to find me, which is probably the best way to get, hey, it just cleared up a little bit.
There you
go. Sorry. Best way to find me is Twitter at TAHarris121079. Make sure you're following the show everywhere you can find us. We're on Facebook and Twitter at SW Reactions Pod, Instagram and Pinterest at SW Reactions. And of course, you can email us swreactions@gmail.com as well. So let's get into our dad joke of the week. Jay, this is a joke that as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to save this for when Jay Krebs is on the show. I have been sitting on this one literally for months. It's been a while. So this is especially for you. So what do you call the Jedi who was assigned to the dunk tank?
Jedi that was assigned to the dunk tank. I don't know, Aaron.
Ahsoka.
Now that is
they
good.
Got a little Ahsoka.
They got Ahsoka. I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Are you kidding? This is like right up my alley. I do this all the time in my own classroom, and I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, I don't care if you laugh. I'm doing this for my own entertainment.
Exactly.
So, no, that is so great. I'm definitely going to use that one again.
Go right ahead. It's all yours now. So
Well done. Well done.
all right. Well, again, Jay, thank you so much for joining us. We do greatly appreciate it. David, it's been a blast as always. Everybody, thank you for listening in. Y'all are awesome. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Be nice to somebody this week. Make a difference in somebody's lives. Make the world better. Remember, this is your place for. I just forgot our catchphrase. Carabast. I have barely spoken this show, and I'm ending with a Carabast moment.
I can carry you out.
Carry me out, buddy.
Your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
Carabast.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.